Are you ready for a sneak peek of this year's spring garden? Hey everyone, Natissa here on the subtropical Florida Gulf Coast, Zone 10, and my dog Minu at my feet as usual. In this video, I'm going to show you everything that I am growing this spring and why. I enjoy watching these kind of videos from other gardeners, not only just to see what they're growing, but if I'm following a particular gardener in a climate very similar to my own, what they are growing and when they explain why they are and how well it's working in their garden. It has been one of the big reasons why our garden here is such a success. So I want to bring that success to you. This video does not include all of the tropical perennials that I grow around my garden. That's a separate video that you need to stay tuned for. So today, just the annuals. In my hot and humid climate that is most certainly on its way, these are the things I will be growing. Starting off with the alliums. That includes like the onions and garlic. Bunching onions. I found success in growing them starting in fall and growing them through fall and winter into the spring, but I had a little trouble this year getting them going, and I have also had success in the past of starting them toward the end of winter. So I am going to do that. I'd rather have some onions than no onions. Now beans. A lot of these beans I grow are from other subtropical parts of the world. That is Asian long beans, noodle beans, also known as asparagus beans. I have the Orient Wonder. That was a darker noodle bean for me. I remember the first year I grew noodle beans and this was a great success. So I'm going to try this again just to see how well it does now that I'm more experienced in growing them. This one was a lighter colored bean, which is easier to see on the vine, but I also want to really pay attention as to how well it's going to do. Now, the noodle bean that I have had wild success with is the Thai Soldier long bean. I have grown this a few times already, and what I've noticed, along with growing my purple long beans, red long beans, is that these just do not get bothered by the aphids at all. In fact, this past summer, my other noodle beans were covered in aphids. I was trying to keep on top of them, and they eventually got succumbed to that, but not these Thai Soldier long beans. They were growing right next to them and just did not have an aphid on them, or if they did, they were gone like the next day. And this just kept on giving. I have so many drying beans from these plants, and even with so many beans coming to their drying stage, which if you know growing beans, you got to keep them picked so that way they keep producing. This still kept producing even though there were a lot of developing beans on the plant. So this one, definitely my must grow Thai Soldier long beans. Another bean I really enjoy growing is the perennial winged bean. At least it is perennial in my climate, or it can be. I have grown this one year and, kept up on the watering. It grew very lush and was one of the most beautiful plants I had during our very, very extreme hot summers. And it makes these very beautiful blue flowers. But they did not set their beans until fall, until the days got a little shorter. But when my noodle beans were kind of ending their season and I was cleaning everything out for fall, these beans were giving us food from that middle point of between summer and getting into our fall season. So I'm definitely going to be growing these again. Now, I always count these as my drying bean, and that is the black-eyed cowpea. I actually have a whole bag of them, too. These grow so well through our summer as well, and they can deal with drier temperatures. I'm picking so many pods off of these. This is a great way to get food to your table and a great way to store food for later. And something great to grow when it seems like nothing else will in our very extreme heat here in our subtropical Florida. I am also going to try a new cowpea to me, and that is the conch cowpea. I don't have a picture here, but it does say it is a vining type. We'll see. Another bean I'm very excited to try is the Puerto Rican black bean. I saw Jacqueline growing this on the Wild Floridian, and just with the amount of beans she was picking off of those plants, I thought she said there was only, 1 or 2 plants. Either way, this bean reminded me of the Thai soldier long bean that was just such a great success to me, and I thought, if this is anything like it, I want this in my garden. We eat a lot of beans, so excited about that. Moving on to cucumbers. Now, cucumbers are something I've always wanted to grow ever since I wanted to start gardening, and it was also one of the plants that I discovered that I just have a hard time growing where I live. I get so many pests on them, and no matter how many hand picking I do or sprays I do, it just felt like I was fighting so much and getting so little back. Also, our heat and humidity is so bad, just the powdery mildew and everything getting onto the leaves. It just, again, just felt like I felt more frustrated than enjoying growing cucumbers until I found the Indian burr gherkin. This is a cucumber relative that says it does well in heat and humid climates, and it has proven to do so. I was amazed. I didn't touch anything on there. The little caterpillars I struggle with, I didn't see any on the plant. None of them has gotten into the fruit as they do with the cucumbers. Might seem just a minor bit of nibbling, but honestly, nothing compared to me growing actual cucumbers. And these taste very much like a cucumber. I don't feel like I'm missing them at all. So if you are struggling with cucumbers, try the Indian burr gherkin. Even if you can grow cucumbers and can't grow any through the extreme heat that you might get in your summertime, this might be a great way to also extend your cucumber season. Now, eggplants. In my garden, I have the midnight moon eggplant still giving us eggplants, and we are now in January. But again, I live in a climate where we don't get that cold, so they're perennial here. So I'm going to keep that plant going, but I'm also going to plant in my garden seeds that I saved from that hybrid plant. And I do understand with hybrid plants, you may not get the same plant that you were growing because it's not a stable variety, but I'm just curious to see what will happen. Long purple. This was the first successful eggplant that I grew here. I really like the purple, and it's just pretty. It tastes good. We're doing it again. I really want to get more of this Casper eggplant going because I really enjoyed seeing white eggplants hanging from the plant. It's easier to spot, and I don't know why, it just looked really neat to see. Another productive one for me was another hybrid called the Green Knight. I like having different colored vegetables and fruits in the garden. It's just part of the joy of gardening when you harvest them all together. But this one, I admit, is going to be a little more difficult to spot on the plant because it is green, but it grew very nice, tasted good. I have a few seeds left, so let's do it. Now for flowers. I'm going to try some more sunflowers. With the first garden we had back in 2019 and going into 2020, they were just stunning. They actually, they might have reached 12 feet, and they were just such a joy to grow. But my dog Minu has also discovered the sunflowers, and she likes to eat them. We'll see. Another type of sunflower that I have found to be so stunning and so easy to grow in the garden, and has really withstood a lot of our extreme heat, is the Mexican sunflower. Now, this is the annual Mexican sunflower. You'll hear me talking about the perennial Mexican sunflower a lot, but this is so beautiful and attracted so many butterflies and bees, and just has been such a joy in the garden. So definitely doing this again. Annual Mexican sunflower. A new flower to me that I have found to grow so well, and I have enjoyed watching it grow, is Cosmos. I just really like the way it looks, and when something grows so well and it looks so good, it's just why not? And because I discovered that I could grow those Cosmos, which were Bright Lights Cosmos, I'm going to try this new variety, or new to me. I think it's pronounced Pacote. My husband and I thought this looked very beautiful. It might be hard to tell in the picture here, but in pictures that I've looked at online, it almost looks like someone took a paintbrush with a bit of this purplish pink and just kind of lightly stroked each petal. So I'm very excited to see how well this variety is going to grow. Another flower that I have fallen in love with that I'm actually not going to plant in my garden this year because my garden has planted it for me. I have a lot of self-seeded coreopsis in the garden, and that has been a new flower that has won my heart, and I am so excited to be seeing that bloom. And definitely I'll be sharing with you those flowers in our future spring and summer tours. Another flower that I have featured in our fall and winter tours it's either pronounced Vinca, I'm not sure. I have found that these type of flowers grow very well from cuttings, but I have gotten the seeds for this sort of apricot. It looks like a light pink with a dark, maybe reddish pink center. And the ones I have in the garden are more of a purple color, and I have a white one as well. So I'm very excited to see this one growing in the garden. We'll see how they start from seed. Another winner for the garden, and I think I heard somewhere that it's native to Florida, I'm not sure, but it grows very well, is the moonflower. It is a part of the morning glory family, and it is called this not only because it makes these large white flowers, but it blooms in the evening. And I've really enjoyed seeing this grow. It's a great way to get pollinators in the night to come to your garden, because there are some fruit and vegetable crops out there that only bloom in the evening and the night, and you got to keep attracting those pollinators as well. It's also nice because as we go in and out of our yard toward evening, it is so fun to just see these go big, beautiful, easy to grow. They say that there are hummingbirds in Florida, but within the last handful of years, I have seen 3 hummingbirds ever here, and 2 of the occasions were actually in our garden. I am going to grow cardinal climber vine. I've always said if I saw a hummingbird in the garden or in Florida somewhere, I am getting plants to attract them. I just don't think last year I had it growing in a very good spot because it really didn't do a whole lot. But from what I saw, I enjoyed it. Maybe attract some hummingbirds. One that I didn't think I would be growing again, but I want to give it a second chance, is snapdragon. But what amazed me so much about them, took the plug of the multiple seedlings, stuck it in the ground on the edge of one of my garden beds, and really kind of forgot about them. And then our summer was so brutal, the heat, lack of rain, and I did not thin these plants out to make one plant. And that can be a problem because if you have too many plants growing in one spot, they very well might be fighting for the sunlight, nutrition, water, and all that. It'll create a situation for them that's just not ideal. But I forgot. And then one day walking through the garden, I saw this plant coming up and starting to bud, and I was like, what is that? And Oh, it's the snapdragons. So when they bloomed, it looked like these little butterflies kind of clustered together. The snapdragon that I grew, it was not its potential because of everything I mentioned, but it looked very good considering. So I thought, man, I gotta try that again. Let's give it a better spot. Let's be more intentional about it and see what it can do. There was a weed in our yard that my husband really likes to see, and it's a type of purslane relative, and it makes these really tiny purplish pink flowers, and it blooms for a short time in the day, and every time we mow the yard we kind of avoided it. I started looking around at different seed companies, and I came across this plant that looks very much like it, and I have found that it is related to this particular weed in our yard, and it is moss rose. Also goes by, I think it's pronounced portulaca? I don't know. It says extremely tough and requires little moisture, and I've heard, you know, it also can handle droughts as well. So if little moisture, yeah, it would do that. I've seen so many pictures of this and it looks so beautiful. The flowers are going to be a little larger, or actually a lot larger than the ones in the yard. So very excited. A flower that we were on the hunt for was scarlet sage. This one we saw at one of our local parks. It had some dried flowers on it, and actually the plant itself was drying out a little bit, but every time it kind of blew in the wind, it almost sounded like little tinkling bells, as much as a plant matter could make that sound. And it was just so interesting, and I know my husband especially was very into that and thought that was really cool. So I've been on the hunt ever since, and I'm pretty sure it was scarlet sage, so we're going to give this a try. A new one to me that I believe is also native to Florida is the partridge pea. And this one makes like these little feathery looking leaves, smaller plant as far as I'm aware of, with these yellow flowers, and it will make these sort of little pods for seeds, and also a nitrogen fixer for the soil. And nitrogen is one of the major nutrients that your plants need to be healthy. Excited. These flowers I'm going to try, I have found in actually the back of a wooded area, and there was a huge patch of these flowers just growing in sand, and they got pretty tall, maybe about 2-3 feet. And later on I walked back there and there were tons and tons of seed heads drying on the plant, and I did get a little sprinkle of that, put that in my pocket, and I want to see what that flower will do here in our garden, because if it's growing just out in the open like that with not much care in our extreme horrible summer we just had, I need to try some of that. And it might be a native, so who knows, but it looked like some sort of like yellow daisy type flower, so I'm excited. So these next set of flowers also have a bit of an edible or medicinal property to them, so I kind of, it's hard to know how to categorize them, but here's some of those. Starting with the cranberry hibiscus that grows so well through our heat and humidity and so beautiful. You can also eat the cranberry red leaves, and it has a very tart taste to them, but they're nice in a salad and just so beautiful to look at. And one of the most tropical looking flowers that end up blooming in our fall and winter time. So this is great for us here in Florida or any other subtropical place you might live. Purple coneflower. So I'm trying to find some good beginner medicinal plants, and I know coneflower, or I think it also goes by echinacea. I think I pronounced that right. I'm going to do more of this from seed and try to find a good place to grow it in the garden. A new one I'm trying is called Gomphrena. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. A red and white one. What's so neat about this is that it does say you can make some tea out of the flowers. So I'm very interested in doing that and reading more of its medicinal properties if it has any. Also, it talked about growing well in heat and poorer soils. Now, the thing that I kind of struggle with is when I hear something growing well in the heat, I'm thinking Florida subtropical heat. Sometimes when people say something grows well in heat, they're talking about a lot of the temperate climate, spring and summer heat, which is my fall and winter. So it sounds like this could be good for our subtropical heat that we have here, like, you know, upper 90s to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, extreme humidity. It didn't say anything about the humidity with these, but I did read that it's related to, I believe it is amaranth, and I think it's also called globed amaranth in some places. So being that amaranth can grow pretty well here, I thought I'd give these a try. Here's another one. Agastache? Oh, I don't know. But I'm really excited to try these as well because it sounds like it's going to do well in our climate. I thought I read somewhere that it can do all right in poor soils. I don't fully remember if I read that correct. But either way, I got this as actually free seeds. So all the more going to give it a shot. But you can also make teas with it, and we'll see. Another beautiful flower, also known as a good medicinal, is yarrow. I love the flowers. It reminds me very much like a carrot flower. So this is a good one. I've actually seen this growing in a botanical garden here local to the area, and a lot of what was in that garden space were things that do well in subtropical areas. This might need to go under some shade. I did grow a bit of it last year. I admit I just didn't give it the best locations or attention. So I'm going to try to give these a better shot this year. Another flower that I have found grows very good here is the butterfly pea. We had a very extreme heat and trouble this summer, and this kicked in and it was just so lovely. You can also make tea with the flowers, and I thought somewhere I read, don't quote me, always look up everything for yourself. This is what I do as well, just because that's a good idea to do. But I thought I read somewhere that the tea can help with anxiety, so sign me up. Perennial in my area, and some of these flowers had a sort of double bloom to them. It looked like a blue rose growing up the fence, so I want to do this again and experiment with the tea a little bit. Last but not least of the flower bunch is roselle. This is one of the first plants that we have grown in our garden and one of the biggest successes. In fact, when I think of this plant, I don't always think of the flowers. I think of the fruits that it grows. It's actually, they're called calyxes. You can make teas with them, make jam. Oh, we have made tons of jam with these. It is one of the few plants that really just seems to just crave the heat. Want to do a big portion of the front yard with these because not only are they edible, but they are very ornamental. This is always in our garden since year number 1. So roselle. Some of the fruits that I'll be growing in the garden this year is purple passion fruit. Our purple passion fruit right now is growing all up to the tippity top of the trees. There's so many fruits. So definitely if you are in a subtropical, tropical area, get some passion fruit growing. It is a crazy grower. Just keep that in mind. I plan on actually maybe planting another plant up that tree. We'll see. Another fruit, ground cherries. From seed that I saved. At first, when I tried this fruit, don't ask me why I think this, but the fruit tasted like fruity dog food. And I thought it was, I just didn't care for it, and I wondered why everyone was raving about it. And I wanted to give it a second chance, and I had the seed. And last year when I tried it, it literally, to me, tasted like a pineapple berry. If you could take a pineapple and put it in a berry. That's probably why you'll hear people say pineapple ground cherries. If it's gonna be anything like last year, I'm growing more ground cherries. Tomatillos. This is one I grew actually with some success last year. The only problem was I didn't stake them up right away as I should, because these needed it quite early on. Also, I had some bugs on it that I should have dealt with soon, but you know, sometimes you think I'll get to it, and I didn't. But it did produce some fruit. I did try it. I liked it. I just need to learn more how to use it in the kitchen, but I do see great potential with this. This seemed like a very good grower with some of the lack of care I had last year. They say you need to have more than one plant to have the cross-pollination between both plants. You know, a bee can just hop around from flower to flower. So I don't know if that's just increasing your chances or if it's 100% necessary to have more than one. But either way, I'm going to plan on a few plants of these and just see and just experiment more in the kitchen with these. 2 fruits left. Goji berries. I don't know how well this is gonna do. It's seed I saved. Ooh, it's already like 4 years old. We'll see. Well, we had a little cutting that grew that we bought from the big box store. It actually grew pretty well, even with my dog pulling it up from the garden twice. So I know this can be a good grower here. I think I lost our original goji berry plant due to a garden bed redo we were doing, so we'll see. I have the seed. Doesn't hurt to try. And one more fruit I'm going to do, and if it works, I don't know where I'm going to put it, but muscadine grapes. I have tried muscadine grapes for the first time. It was store-bought grapes, and I just fell in love with that. But I saved seed from those fruits, and I just want to see if I can get them to sprout. At least from what I read, they can benefit from a cold period. So I have it in the refrigerator for the last few months. So we'll see. Now we're getting into the greens. Again, I'm not talking about any of my tropical perennial plants, but I do have some great greens that are annuals that you can grow in a subtropical climate as well. And the first one is Egyptian spinach. This was one of our first very successful food crops we grew back in 2020, and I've been really saving seed ever since. A lot of seed in there. I remember grabbing handfuls of this and putting this in a taco, sandwich, or salad and realizing, oh wow, we can do this. We can grow some of our own food. So this really kicked things off for us, and it really grows well. I mean, it thrives in the heat and humidity. In fact, when a lot of these start self-seeding and start to grow through our fall, they don't seem to do too well in my experience. So Egyptian spinach also goes by that name, Malokia. I think that's how it's pronounced. Get some Egyptian spinach in your garden. I'm gonna be getting this in ours. Believe it or not, many people might think I'm crazy, but I am gonna grow some dandelion. Dandelions, the leaves and the flowers, I'm pretty sure the flowers are as well. I know the greens are edible, and this is something you see so many people trying to get rid of in their yards, but this is a really good, very nutritious vegetable crop. And I found that this grows very well in bright shade. And what I mean by that is there's a side of my house that doesn't get a lot of sun, but the light color of my house, really the corner is still very bright, and this seems to do well there. It doesn't seem to like the sun at all here in Florida. I need to get this started and going because it actually grows pretty well. Also, chicory and Italian dandelion. Another greens that you can eat, and I thought I read somewhere that you can eat the flowers. I don't know. Not so much in Florida have I seen it, but it does grow well, again, with more shade in my experience. And this is something I'm very interested to have on our property because you can take the roots, and I didn't fully look into what to do with them. I think roast them up and that sort of thing, and make chicory a nice coffee substitute. And I really enjoyed the taste of it. It doesn't have any caffeine that I'm aware of, but just to have something on the property that can mimic coffee would be, I think, just a great thing to have. So chicory, and the flowers are very beautiful. We are gonna grow some of this pink amaranth. This grew so well last year. In fact, sometimes with amaranths, I don't know if it's my timing or where I grow it, and that's something I'm still learning, and I always tell everybody just plant things everywhere and learn as you grow. But this has been the best growing amaranth that I have grown so far. This also grew through the summer, and not as much pest damage on this variety than I had with others. And this produced so many leaves, and it turned into like this bush, this shrub, and it was so beautiful with that pink. I actually had it growing in the front yard, and man, I wish I had a picture of that because it was just so stunning, and it was something I went to almost every day to pick for cooked greens and salad greens. So definitely get this on your list. I know of no other place that sells it than Baker Creek. Hopefully other places will be selling this too, because man, this worked very well for me. Another thing to grow if you want a more ornamental edible space, that's something we want to do in our front yard is, why grow things that are not edible when you can find things that you can eat that look so beautiful. Actually, most plants all look beautiful, but if you want something this ornamental, this is a good one. Another amaranth, the Chinese spinach, you may hear it called. And this one I have grown before, loved the way it looked. It just didn't seem to bush out and do as much as that pink amaranth. But it might have been when I grew it because it was through fall. It wasn't getting enough sun, so that could have been the issue. So I want to give this one a chance because that pink amaranth was so inspiring. So this. And we are trying this red amaranth because if this lasts as well as that pink amaranth, these have really nice dark leaves that would be nice in our salads and cooked dishes. So yes, we're gonna try this variety this year. Something else very stunning, and I did plant it in my I'm planting everything video for the fall and winter season, but it didn't come up, and I planted it twice, and it was, I believe it's pronounced auric. I have planted this last year toward the end of winter, and I started it in, a plant start. And it did grow and it looked wonderful, and the plant got about, like a foot high, and then it went to seed and it quit. I don't know, I just might need to find where it's going to thrive in the garden, play around with the timing, but if I can get this to work, we just love our greens. I try to grow as many as possible for variety and different health benefits of each one. But anyways, if I can get this to grow very well, here's another one then. And last, but definitely not least, it is something I'm trying this year, is a type of celosia. It is, I believe, called Lagos spinach. I've heard this brought up many times. So from my understanding, yes, it is a type of amaranth relative. And so it likes the heat as well, and very ornamental. So this is something I've had my eye on for a while and finally got some seeds. But I do feel confident about it because I've heard a lot of people suggest this in a climate like mine. So yeah. Now for herbs. A lot of the popular herbs that we like to grow, like parsley, dill, cilantro, that is growing in my fall winter garden. The basil didn't do too well this fall and winter like I was hoping, so I'm going to put out some more. And this is just the regular sweet basil that I have saved seed from our original garden back in 2019. But I really want to just go back to the tried and true of what was growing well. So I'm going to get this back in our garden and hope it just keeps on reseeding as it does. The dark purple basil. This grew so well last year, especially in one of my spots in the garden that just seems to struggle a little bit with the heavy amount of sun. And it looks so beautiful, and it's actually part of my garden that's right by our back door, and that's where I want a lot of my herbs to be because I'm always forgetting to get those. So yeah, purple basil, we're gonna get this going again. Also, lemon basil seems to work very well in our summertime, and I'm really wanting to experiment more with basil tea. So lemon basil may be a good choice for that, and in our cooking. And if I didn't have it growing, I would start Thai basil, and it has been self-seeding all over the garden, so I'm just not even going to worry about starting that one. I'm going to try some catnip. I mean, I don't have a cat. I know cats wander through our garden. Not that I am thrilled about that. This I am thinking more along the medicinal type of plants to grow. And this one you can make a nice tea out of. It's very hard to grow mint here in my experience. So this catnip, I'm not expecting it to be flourishing, but I do want to try it just to see if I can get a little something, maybe tuck it in some shade. I don't know. I have the seeds. We'll see. A medicinal herb I really am curious about trying is, let's hope I pronounce it right, Spilanthes, I think, also known as the toothache plant. It's something where you can take the flowers of it and chew on it, and I guess it kind of numbs your mouth, maybe your throat area. So if you were to have a sore throat or maybe an ache or pain in the mouth, it just can help soothe some of that pain. Again, I got to read more up on it, and definitely do your readings as well. Anytime you grow or eat anything, a lot of things do have toxins or side effects or that sort of thing, and you just got to learn how to grow it, how to use it, and all that. So yeah, I'm going to try some of this. I also saw in, I think it was a Florida garden, where they were growing some of this, and it was toward their summertime, and it looked very good. So that's why I felt more confident in trying it. So maybe if you live in a place like I do, maybe it'll work for you as well. One I've always wanted to try and feel a little hesitant on it working, but we'll see, is summer savory. It's a type of herb that is very similar to thyme. That's what I've read, and maybe it's because of the word summer, so it makes me think, oh, it might do well in our summers. But again, a lot of things when they say, oh, heat tolerant, loves the summertime, a good number of times it seems to be talking about the more temperate climate summers. So this I am not sure if that will be the case or not, but I've always wanted to try it, so I'm going to try it. We'll see, we'll see. This is an experiment. Now this one, I can't pronounce this. I'm just going to show you and tell you its other name, Bolivian coriander, or Bolivian cilantro, I've heard it called. But yes, it is said to taste like a mix of arugula, rue, and cilantro. Very curious about it. If I read correctly, it sounds like it's something that's gonna do all right in my climate. There's certain seeds and plants I come across that just really pique my interest, and I just feel like I need to try it. And this was actually one of those herbs that I felt the need. And last, but definitely not least, is ashwagandha. And this is something I've read. I think it can help with autoimmune disease. It sounds like it does other things as well, but it just seemed like a good medicinal to have on the property. And it sounds like it's going to grow very well here. And if this does what I'm hoping it will do medicinally, I'm going to be growing this all the time. All right, melons. And melons seem to like the heat, but they don't seem to like the humidity. So I'm going to try this variety called, it's a cantaloupe, Adisto 47. And it says that these are sweet melons and it's an excellent choice for hot and humid summers. And that's me. I'm going to try some of that. And I really had a hard time with my melons and watermelons last year. It was just an extra difficult summer. But the one melon that showed promise was, I think I'm pronouncing it right, the Hera Madu. And it even says in its description that it was bred to do decently well in multiple type of climates. But I'm hoping one of the characteristics it is bred for to maybe handle our humidity a little better. I don't know. This is just me hoping. And maybe even get more seed just to play around with it. Now these melons I'm going to show you are not the sweet, wonderful melons that you're going to put in a fruit salad, but they are the bitter melon. I mean, it's a fruit technically in the science world because the seeds are produced in here, but I'm just going to call them a vegetable as far as taste and what we might think of as a vegetable. Bitter melons actually grow wild where I live. They're these vines that grow crazy and they have these little tiny orange fruits that open up with red seeds. And I'm not sure on how edible they are, and I've heard people say that they are edible, and then I've heard other people say they're not, and I just don't feel comfortable with trying to forage because that can actually be a dangerous thing if you don't know what you're doing. So I am just going to be sure I always buy some seed of different bitter melons because they do grow well here. And this one is the Big Top Bitter. It is said to be an earlier producer, so we will see. And gonna try the Abashi bitter melon. And this is said to, I guess, do even better in the extreme heat. And bitter melon, as it is, does so well. In fact, the vines really took over the back of our bench area, and I was just amazed, and that was one plant. It was the white bitter melon last year. Very beautiful. It only produced a couple of them. It might have been because our weather was just so extreme and I don't think I watered as well as I thought I did, so that might have been a problem. But either way, gonna do it. Yes, they're very extremely bitter in taste, but we are really enjoying these in our meals as we learn how to eat them. For okra, because I am here in the South, everyone grows okra. And truly, I do find it to taste very good. But I am going to grow some more of this rainbow okra mix that I have. And I saved some okra from my orange variety that came from that rainbow seed pack. So we'll see if I can continue this on. Now, peppers. Yeah, lots and lots of peppers. The first pepper I am for sure going to be growing this year is the Corbaci pepper. And this pepper was featured in my first single seed challenge that has really started my channel as well. I grew this in a container. The soil was actually pretty good soil, way better than my soil in the in-ground beds because that's just taking a while to build up. But to see how well this did, I got so many peppers, not just in my first harvest video of it, but from that point on, we were constantly picking peppers and the plant was just, it was just such a healthy plant. So this has really spurred me on to really improve our soil. It's actually becoming a very exciting part of the garden, and this Corbaci pepper has me thanking them for that because I need to build my soil up. But this is definitely going to be happening in the garden this year. For sure, Jimmy Nardellos. I think I read that they are disease resistant, which I wouldn't doubt because of how well it did. I actually started growing these and corbaci peppers because I had trouble growing bell peppers. And yes, these are more thin-walled, but it was also that year I had not only the ordeals with the fruit rats coming to eat all of them, we also had fruit flies stinging a lot of the fruit. It was, gosh, my green bell pepper variety and banana peppers. And man, it was very discouraging. And I read that usually thinner wall peppers are more likely to not get stung by fruit fly. And also the bell peppers and the banana peppers that I were growing were more susceptible to disease, which I did witness in the garden. So Jimmy Nardellos were something that I discovered to really work for me and very productive in my experience. Also, of course, shishitos. Gosh, it just felt like we were getting peppers every couple days. I'd come in with a handful. So definitely gonna do these again, shishitos. And I'm probably going to grow from this seed packet as well, just to see if it is true to what it's saying it is, because I did get these shishito peppers a couple years back where, gosh, a lot of my seeds were not what was on the front. Cubanelles. This is something that I heard is a great bell pepper substitute, and I've grown it and it grew pretty well. The only thing is I did not give this pepper the best location or circumstances. And sometimes, again, when I see a plant actually doing decent for not having the best circumstance, gosh, if I give this a bit more attention, what is this thing gonna do? A hybrid called Pretty and Sweet, and it is crispy and sweet, and it does look very pretty as it grows and the peppers just kind of poke up. So I really like just having this randomly throughout. It did get some of those fruit fly stings that one year, but it didn't happen this year, so we're doing it. The Pippin's honey pepper. This is a sweet pepper and it is so beautiful, so unique in how it looks. The flowers are purple and I don't know of any other pepper that has purple flowers. Gosh, I don't remember the order, but the fruit itself goes from I think a mustard yellow to a dark purple, almost black, and then to a reddish orange. But either way, super beautiful, super ornamental, and tastes really good. The Bacchino. I grew the yellow Bacchinos last year, so this year we're gonna try the red Bacchino. Now this was a very unique experience to me with peppers, and it was actually one of the big moments I realized that, wow, peppers can have a different taste profile. And this one was crispy and had like a citrus kind of taste to it and just a little bit of heat. And for me, I can't even handle a bit of jalapeno on my finger, and if I licked that, my mouth just goes on fire. So that tells you the lack of tolerance I have for heat. So if I'm eating this, it can't be that bad. I really want to work more on it in the kitchen, and it's cute too. They call it bird beak, which, if you can see, that is why it looks like a bird's beak. Another hybrid that I'm going to try the second generation of is the seeds that I saved from the Mad Hatter hybrid. This is something that, got the plant from the big box store, really liked the flavor and the crispiness of the pepper. I don't remember it being a sweet pepper. It wasn't a hot pepper. It was, I don't know, it just kind of had a very savory pepper taste. It grew very well. It grew so many. So I just want to see what's going to happen with this one. A new pepper I'm going to try that to me sounds like it's going to have great promise is the chocolate bell pepper. This is said to have a high resistance to diseases and be very productive. So I am very excited to see about that, because where I live, I do deal with a lot of disease. And being that I am a backyard gardener, I don't have acres of land, so I do try to grow things that are very productive, so I get a lot out of the garden. So there we go, chocolate bell pepper. And it looks like chocolate. We're doing it. Another new one I'm gonna try is the sweet pepper. Not a habanero, habanada. And also, yeah, fruity floral taste, but without the heat. I was imagining this in our salads as well, so we'll see. Of course, gonna do jalapenos. Not for me, it's for my husband. Also, my husband wanted to try, and I'm excited to grow. I think it's pronounced dill. I'm curious to think what my husband will think of this, so we'll see. Supposed to be very hot. Moving to our root crops and tubers. Now, a lot of the root crops and tubers that I grow are actually perennial, and I want to feature that in the perennial video I'm going to do. But my annual root crop that I discovered, that I even have a harvesting video that I recommend you check out, and we are definitely going to grow again, the jicama. I was so blown away by this plant. I really did not expect to get a harvest, or if I did, I thought it was just gonna be so little because of some of the circumstances that I had it growing in. But we live in a climate where we get enough heat to grow this large tuberous crop. And despite what I was growing some of it through, it grew very large. Check out that video. Just like with cucumbers, I have a hard time growing squash. A lot of, your zucchini, your yellow crookneck. I just can't with the humidity and the pests. It just takes it out so fast. But I am gonna grow the loofah gourd. This to me is a zucchini substitute. I know the taste profile might be a little different. It has, to me, if I remember correctly, a more green kind of taste, if that makes any sense. But I enjoyed slicing it up and putting it in a stir fry with a lot of the noodle beans that we grow. You can also let this fruit grow bigger, bigger, bigger and start to dry out on your plant. And when this is fully dry, you can peel it back and actually make sponges out of it. And a lot of the seeds are in those cavities right there. Yeah, eat them young, have a very easy zucchini substitute here in the subtropics. I also have a kielbasa squash growing in the garden right now. It seems like the winter squash grow better for me so far, starting them either late summer or maybe early fall. So I don't know which one I'm gonna choose. It's until we get to that point. Tray is empty. We're on our last category, and that is watermelon. Definitely gonna do the Jubilee. This was our first watermelon we grew in our first garden, and in fact, these seeds have been continually saved from that. I think was developed here in Florida, so it's more tailored to our heat and humidity. So yes, Jubilee. A watermelon we did last year, and I struggled with watermelons last year because of our heat and the pests. I want to try Congo again. This was the only variety that did produce an edible fruit, and the fruit actually was very underripe when I picked it, but my husband and I were so shocked with actually how good it tasted. Not saying it was the best watermelon at all, but the texture and the flavor were still decently good considering how underripe it was. I mean, it still had like some of the white spots in it. That's how underripe it was. So I really want to bring the Congo variety back and just see what we can do if we can get it growing very well. And the last watermelon, but not least, gonna bring back the sugar baby. This is a very common variety amongst gardeners. It is said to have a shorter vine span, so that way it's not going crazy, because watermelon does go crazy. In fact, I don't know where I'm gonna grow all these watermelons because I already grow a lot of vines and my summer is nuts. I just want to be sure I also have a good smaller variety growing in the garden. Now, what am I going to grow for this year's single seed challenge? That is for a later video. I know this video was a longer one, but I hope that you enjoyed seeing what I am growing in my garden, or if you or someone you know has a subtropical climate, or maybe you yourself have a point in the year where your gardening area acts like the subtropics. Maybe some of these varieties would be good for your garden too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.